Reading a person's words, we can learn a tremendous amount of information. However, listening to the person delivering it, now that is a powerful thing. Audio clips in the classroom are a wonderful, wonderful way of bringing history alive for your students. However, we do need to help them analyze these clips. Think of it as fine-tuning their listening skills. The first thing we want to draw their attention to is the source of the clip. It might be a formal clip, such as a presidential speech, or an informal clip, something like a conversation caught on tape. Or maybe it's a pop cultural clip where we have Elvis Presley singing on The Ed Sullivan Show. All of these are great examples that we can incorporate into the classroom. Our second thing we should be looking at or directing our students to listen to would be the demographics. They need to be detectives to determine the time period and the person that is speaking or addressing the clip at that time. Now, we are going to listen to a sample, and I'm going to let you know that it is the Vice President of the United States, way back in time, Vice President Hobart, but I'm not going to tell you the time period. I want you to see if you could identify the clues in this to bring light to what time period this clip is capturing.
Yet so quickly do these appliances enter into our everyday affairs, at the office, the home, the factory, and the shop, that we unconsciously utilize them as if they had always been our possession, and as if the telephone, telegraph, electric light, electric car, and the countless other manifestations of electrical energy had always existed for the comfort and convenience of man. This may, indeed, well be called the electric age.
I'm sure you were able to identify that this audio clip was taped in the late 1800s. Vice President Hobart was speaking to a group of people in New York City in 1898, talking about the impact electricity was just starting to have on the American people. The actual photos that you were watching as you were listening to the audio clip definitely bring to light electricity during this time. The first photo that was shown, you could see here a trolley in Syracuse, New York, and it's of course electric trolley, and if you look, you can actually see all the electric lines. And isn't it ironic that that trolley is sitting right across the Erie Canal, different forms of transportation during that time. And also, if you look in the corner of the picture, there's still a horse and carriage. The second photo was a church in the early 1900s, and in this church you can actually see the electrical lights coming down off the ceiling, lighting the church for their religious service. Our next one is a letter stating that electric and telephone lines will be placed throughout the Adirondack Park. So it's documenting when electricity made its way up into the Adirondacks. Here you can actually see the electric lines being placed up near Racket Lake. As you can see, they have to clear a huge, large area so that these lines can be installed. The last photo that you viewed when listening to the audio tape is of Queens, New York. And up in the corner, if you look closely, you will actually see an electric line and a pole holding those lines. It's pretty amazing that this is Queens, New York in the early 1900s. It looks as if it's a very rural setting then. Our next step in analyzing an audio clip is really capturing and looking at the mood and the tone. Now, we need to listen to the voice. We need to listen to background noise. We need to actually start to take in the pause or breaks or silence. All of that adds meaning to an audio clip. This next piece that we will listen to, I want you to try to imagine that you are sitting in a living room, all with your family, all around a radio, and listen to these famous words.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific.
When you listen to that clip, you can actually hear concern, energy, determination. You could hear that president calling the nation together as a group. It's very easy to visualize sitting there in a living room, drawn to that radio, listening and hoping for answers to such a horrific event that just occurred in the country. Now, a great supplemental piece to bring into your classroom, of course, is the written word. Together, with the audio clip and the written word, you could learn a tremendous amount. We can look at the speech and actually talk about the edits and changes the president made in the speech, but using the audio clip is so important for the emotional message that needs to be delivered to our students. Other supplemental material that you could bring in would actually be diaries. Now this one here is of a military officer in the United States military, and this is his diary. He was in Pearl Harbor at that time, and on the date of Pearl Harbor, he wrote down, "Island bombed at 8 this morning. We will get them." Very powerful piece to actually use in addition to an audio clip. Also, let's take a look at some of the photos and documents that were shown during your audio clip. Our first one here, we have the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the initial view and shock of it being on fire. Our second one, we can actually see our ships and military equipment being destroyed. This one here is the USS Arizona sinking into the ocean. Our last one here is of a burial, actually burying the men killed in the bay during this Japanese attack. And you can actually identify the soldiers here in the background and the flag draped on the coffins. Very powerful. Our next step in analyzing an audio clip is the actual purpose. Why was it documented? Why was it kept over time? We are going to listen to a clip that will actually show perceptions throughout the United States. It's an interview of a gentleman right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. It truly captures a point of view. And you should also know that there are over 12 hours of interviews of people from all over the United States interviewed right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So you can pick and choose a multiple array of perceptions and opinions from American people. Let's listen to this one first.
While quite a small child, standing in the front of the Capitol, the state of Tennessee, I saw an Armistice Day parade in 1919, in which all the ROTCs of the various white schools, of course we have no ROTC in the Negro schools in Nashville, marched right up the streets with the soldiers who had been abroad. And they had a big welcome sign on one of the streets in Nashville, welcoming the soldiers back home. When the Negro soldiers got to this welcoming sign, they were asked to turn to the right and go down a block and come around. They weren't allowed to come on this sign. Now that thing has stayed with me a long time, but it hasn't dampened my spirit to the extent that I don't want to do what I can for the betterment of my country during this crisis.
After listening to that audio clip, you definitely understand the purpose of why that was captured. And it was to get the feeling of American people during this time. It was interesting to listen to an African American that actually was discriminated against and felt inequalities in the United States, but was still so determined and willing to fight for the country. There was also a variety of supplemental material that you were viewing while listening to that tape. The first one was a group of gentlemen standing outside of a building. And if you look at the doors, it states colored men through this door and colored waiting room in this door. So it would actually show you the inequities that the person was talking about. The second photo that was shown during the audio clip was two soldiers standing in front of and holding military bombs, and it states Easter eggs for Hitler. This is a very famous photo that you might have viewed before, but it definitely shows that African Americans played a crucial role in this war. We are going to listen to one more audio tape, this one also on an interview of a person on the street the day after Pearl Harbor. However, this one holds a different opinion. Listen closely and see if you can identify it.
Pin up all the Japanese in this country so they can't do us any dirt. If it's not just through the duration of the war, but all of them we get, we just pin them up and keep them. Keep them, never give anybody else no trouble.
The photos and documents that you viewed while you were listening to that clip, this first one is a Western Union telegram, and this was actually sent by a Japanese organization to the President of the United States, and it states they are joining all Americans in condemning Japanese aggression against our country and support all measures taken for the defense of the nation. Interesting and amazing, and very supportive in addition to using that audio tape. Also, we looked at a photo that showed Japanese Americans in the military, and in this photo, raising the national flag. Audio clips are a powerful piece to bring into the classroom. They are filled with emotion and perception and perspectives. Bring a piece into your classroom and help your students become listeners of history.